The great gift will be here soon. The gift of our Savior. It's an amazing gift. One we've been preparing to receive this whole season of Advent. And the response we should have is just like John's. Leaping for joy. Because God is coming as a little baby for us. That's amazing. We should be leaping for joy in anticipation. We should be waiting intensely for the ability to celebrate that gift. Not by buying a bunch of presents, although it's not bad to give presents, but by focusing on what is that gift going to be doing for us? What does that gift mean for me personally? When we celebrate that gift, is it going to be yay and then we move on with our lives? Not changed, not different because of the gift that comes at Christmas? Or we receive that gift fully by receiving Christ, fully giving ourselves back to Him, by fully following Him, by allowing Him to change us as He would have us be changed. Because just as the example of Mary, when we follow that example, when we follow the example of Mary of listening to God and His plan, look what happens. Our God comes and saves us by dying on the cross for us. That's what happened when we fully accept that gift that we're about to receive in a few days. And this is the amazing thing with any gift. We have the choice to choose to accept that gift, or we can reject it. We can turn our back on that gift. But here's the other great thing. Even if we've turned our back on that gift in the past, we can always turn back and accept it. That's the beauty of God's gift, is that He's always offering it. We can always go, oh, well, I guess I'll stop being kind of stupid and start saying, yeah, I'll take your gift, God, thanks. But we have to make the choice. And so I challenge us to really spend some time in the next few days praying. Are we willing to truly accept that amazing gift that's coming in a few days? And accept what it means for how we need to make changes in our lives. And that won't always be easy. But God will sustain us. And that's where we trust. We trust in His love, in His truth, and in the promises He has made us. Because He's already shown us His love. And so let us prepare ourselves to receive that gift wholeheartedly, arms open wide, because God so wants us to receive it.
This is a very interesting reading from the letter to the Hebrews that can really pack quite a punch if we understand it properly. First, as we heard, the writer acknowledges that God does not desire sacrifices. But the specific type of sacrifice that he's referring to was the temple sacrifice, Temple worship, of course, consisted of sacrificing animals, and these were extrinsic, external sacrifices. So the writer from Hebrews acknowledges that that is not what God desires. He doesn't desire those external sacrifices. It then acknowledges that Jesus received a body, and this body would be used as a different kind of sacrifice, a sacrifice of doing the will of God, a sacrifice of obedience to God. The body that was given to Jesus would be offered as a self-sacrifice, a sacrifice of self on the cross. But this is not only for Jesus, of course. The entire church is called to offer itself as this type of sacrifice, offering our very bodies to do the will of God. We see this very beautifully, of course, in the gospel, in the very story of Jesus' own birth and through the life of his mother, Mary. And remember that very often in theology, Mary represents the church. So we see in Mary that she too offered her body as a sacrifice to do the will of God. And Christ took flesh in her. He became tangible and real within her. This, of course, makes the very mission of the church visible. Mary's body makes the entire gospel story very real. We say yes to God. We open ourselves to doing his will. And the very life of Christ is conceived within us. And then we bear it forth into the world through acts of charity. We ourselves become that sacrifice of doing the will of God. But, like the people of God who had to sort of go through this conversion in history, putting away the temple sacrifice for this new type of sacrifice, we have to undergo a similar conversion experience over the course of our own life. Because very often when we start out, we sort of intuit the Mass that we offer very similar to those extrinsic and external sacrifices. Okay, that's sort of where we start. But over the course of our life, we need to grow and understand that the Mass is really for us to learn the will of God and to do it. It's actually to help us offer this sacrifice of self. Mary, again, is a good image for us to hold in our minds when we attend Mass. Again, we say yes to the will of God. Even just coming to Mass sometime is to say yes to that will of God. And then, as our hearts and minds are open to the gospel and to the Blessed Sacrament, something new and something good is sort of conceived inside of us. And like Elizabeth, Mary's cousin, is then experienced by others. We have the opportunity to experience this profoundly when we take part in the Mass. But we must learn, and this is something that deepens over time, over the entire course of one's life. We have to learn to continue to offer ourselves as that sacrifice. So today, of course, think of all the people that you will encounter in a similar way to the way that Mary encountered Elizabeth. At the end of the day, will all those you encounter be able to say that they experienced Christ in you? I hope that they do. That's the goal. That's the goal, to see others experience Christ in us. And that, of course, is a great grace in and of itself. That brings a very deep joy for us to remember as we are plunged into this Christmas season, which, of course, can often devolve into a very materialistic experience. Again, by doing the will of God, that others may experience the goodness of God through us. And of course, as we're here today, I can't help but think of Father Jim. As I said, he was my pastor, and he's also now been a friend of mine in the priesthood. And I'm very thankful today for how I experienced Christ in him over many years. But I also want to acknowledge how Father Jim experienced Christ in you over his time here as your pastor. And I'm thinking far, far before he was ever diagnosed with ALS, he experienced Christ in you. And I will say, as a priest, to experience Christ in our people is a great gift of the priesthood. And so I'm very thankful that Jim was able to witness Christ in your life and to see Jesus conceived in you through so many years of ministry.